So we're now on step 21, and for step 21 we need our servo, which we've put together. We need these components, which are the D5s, and we need some BA8s, which are these two guys, and 3mm washers, which are the BB12s. But we don't need this section here, because the electronic speed controller that we're using, or being provided by Tamiya, is a derivative of the Hobbywing 1060. Your switch system here is different to a Tamiya switch, so we'll just need to place this either on the side of the electronic speed controller, which we can use like the designated slots for that, so we can use that, pop that on the side either there. Actually it's only one place, so it's literally is that way. So once we've decided where that goes in the chassis, we'll pop that to the side. Okay, so just to let you know, we no longer need to do this bit. Okay, so let's put these onto the side and go from there. So here, just get yourself ready, take the BA8, pop the little washer over the top so you're ready. Then take your D5 component, and it's the flat side, place that underneath the servo, and then place your screw through the servo top mounting, and just going to screw this into place. It's quite soft, so you don't have to go too mad, like that. And the same again on this side. Hopefully I can show you. Hold the servo at the same time. Oh, that's going the other way. There we go. And there we go. There we are. So that's now held in place. Okay, that's that step is now completed. Step 21 is done. We move on. We're moving on to step 22, and we need the final bag, bag C. So we need to get this open, take out all the components that are inside, and again put these into your tray so you know where they are. And let me get these out, and then I'll come back to you. Right, so there's our components emptied out into our tray, and we get another one of the wrenches. Goody. As you can see, the plastic spacers, chuck those out, don't need those, I've got metal bearings. So what we are interested in is these rods here. So we need this one, which is the 75mm rod, and we need this one as well, which is this one here, which is the 50. That makes that, sorry, that's a rod that's 85mm and 65mm. There you go, sorry about that. So they're the two rods, and we need some of these components, which are these guys here, and these are your adjusters, your 5mm adjusters, the ball end adjusters. So we need 4 of those, so you're going to take those off like that. So we need 4 of those, and we need to make up and pop these onto our servo. So show you how that's done. So get our rods. This is your BC3, which is the 85mm one here, and this one here, which is your BC2, which is your 65mm one. And you take your ball end and you literally screw these in, and you keep screwing these in until you get the correct measurements. And this is a very simple step, really, so nothing to write home about. So you can see there you go, and then we basically adjust these up. Same again on here, get the rod ends in. It's almost like these are threaded, if I'm being honest with you. They're quite easy, too easy. Yeah, I think they are, they're threaded already. Right, there we go. I'm going to adjust these now to give me the 75mm for the long one and a 52mm for the short one. I'll back in a moment. So there we go. So you can do this in two ways. You could offer up this into the drawing. So one of the adjusters is horizontal and the other one is a 90° to it, and offer up into the drawing and check to see if the gap between the two adjusters is correct at 52mm, which if you look on mine, I've done it with a ruler as well. You can probably just about see that it's 52mm on the ruler. Okay, and same again for this one here. Again, one horizontal and one at 90°. Offering up on the drawing, you can offer it up to see if it's the right gap, or if you've got a steel rule like I have, 75mm, and you can see that's 75mm. Okay, there we are. So those are two made up, ready for us, and all we need to do now is squeeze those onto your servo, and you put the longer on this side of the servo and this one on the shorter on this side of the servo, like that. There we go. So that's now step 22 completed and ready. We're moving on to step 23, and step 23 is all about putting the electronics, so our speed controller, our receiver and our servo, into the chassis. And just a little note here is that the switch system, which you normally use a Tamiya switch system, we haven't got that because we're using this black Hobbywing equivalent, and we'll be using this in a separate position, and I'll show you that in a moment. So we're going to need to put in the servo with our steering system in first, and that's using two of the BA8s, so 3x10mm screws and the 3mm washers. Nice and straightforward, and then double side tape the rest of the components. So in readiness for this step, we take our BA8 screws and our 3mm washers and get those ready, shall we? Put them over the two screws, and then once we've got those ready, so there's our two screws with our washers, we can then take our servo with our steering rods and place those into the chassis, and you're going to collect, if you can see, this hole here, which is a fixed hole, and this hole here, which is a sliding hole. Okay, so you're able to position that based on your servo. Okay, so you're going to pop that in there and screw that into place, and a bit of cable management as well. Ah, look, John's done it wrong. See, put the servo in the wrong way around. Come on, John. Should go that way around, because we've got to get this on the top, haven't we? Because otherwise it won't clear. I don't know. What's he like, eh? Anyway, let me put these into place and screw these into place for you. So once you've got the first screw into place, which is the one that's the fixed hole, it's relatively easy after that. It's just a case of then lining up the second hole and then getting that into position. So it's a case of finding where the hole is. There we are, and finding that. There we go, and then you just screw these tight. Go. So that's now in place, sorted. Now we've got to do the rest of the electronics. So completing our step 23, we need to place in the electronic speed controller and the receiver. So as you can see, I've got the chassis here. So I've got my electronic speed controller ready. I've placed a bit of double-sided tape on the bottom. We're kind of going to, essentially, I think we're going to be putting things here. The only thing I need to just be aware of is this switch here. This switch is not the same switch that goes to the same switch plate over on this side of the chassis. So I'm just going to place these, and they're going to roughly sort of sit like that with your aerial tube coming out of the aerial holder, which is here. So they're going to sit in there. We're going to push those in, but I'm not going to put those in right now. Just bearing in mind the cabling, I'm thinking ahead with my cabling. We've got the gearbox, the rear gearbox and motor, etc. Going to go here, and I'm thinking this length. So positioning this in the chassis so that these motor wires reach is what I'm thinking of, and of course the speed controller reaching to the receiver. So again, I've got to make sure that it goes around and down and drops in to collect the port. So and cable management is what it's all about for me. I like to have my cables nice and neat. So yeah, so we're going to just hold on putting those in until we put the rest of the car together. All right, but essentially, if you wanted to put them in straight away, you'll stick them in somewhere like this. Okay, all right, so we move on to the next step. So we're moving on to 24. Now for step 24, we need some of these screws over here, which are the BA8s, which are the 3x10mm. We need 4 of those. So that's this guy's here. We need also BC7s. These are the countersunk screws. So these are, again, 3x12mm, but they're countersunk. So you can see the difference in the head there. Look, see it's countersunk. All right. So we need 3 of those, and we need this component, which is C1. We need this. We also need our front suspension system and uprights, which is this here. Okay, so we need this. And well, it says to root, as you can see, root the switch. So as you can see, I'm not going to be able to root the switch because our switch is a bit smaller because we're using a different electronic speed controller. But yeah, if you're using a Tamiya TBLE 01, an 02 or an 04 of that kind, then this would work. But yeah, because we're using a hobby wing equivalent, this was what came with the kit. The switch is smaller in the cable here, so we're going to have to reconfigure how we put our switch in. I'll show you that later though. Right, anyway, let's get on. So for this step, we're going to place our front section underneath our main chassis. I'm just going to turn that over just so you can see, and we're going to line up these holes, and of course we're going to use those countersunk screws to screw this into place. So that's the sort of first step. I'm just going to pop those in loose at the moment, so sort of pop the center one in, that holds it in place, so I can swivel this around a little bit and collect the 2 outer holes that I need. Nip that up, and when you get to the end here, you feel it come to the end, and it's just a case of that and a quarter turn. Really is it. There we go. So that bit is now done. Now we need to pop the front section on, and we need to make sure that these actually collect our steering. So let's put those into place while we can now. It's easier to do it now. So it's a case of just giving those a good squeeze on, and if you've got good grip, all being well, they should go on. And here we go. And we need to do the other one. There we go. And now we need to take our next component, which is our C1 component, and we need to collect these 2 front holes here, and we need to collect these 2 holes here. Okay, like that, and then use our BA8s to screw that home. And that's step 24 completed. So moving on to step 25, and step 25, very similar to step 24, except we're going to be using the rear section of our chassis. So we can see the front section's now on. We need to do the rear section. So we're going to need, again, the BC7s, 4 of those. They're the 3 by 12 millimeter, and these are the countersunk screws with the little countersunk head on them. Okay. We're also going to need 2 of the BA8s. These are the standard 3 by 10 millimeter screws that you get with the kit. And we're also going to need the rear section of our transmission, gearbox, etc. And that is like that. So that's going to fit onto the rear, and we're going to put these holes here, these 4 holes, and line those up with these holes here and in here on top. And then we're also going to line these 2 at the top with these 2 here. So they're going to go like that, and then we're going to screw that all together. Okay, so same as we did before. And that is step 25 now completed. We can move on to the next step. So you may remember back in step 23 we said about putting in the electronics, and we said we'll wait until we've got the front section on and the rear section on. So we've done that now. So now is a good time to position our electronics to see where they will fit. So remember I said we need to think about the motor wires, and they go through, they actually go through there like that, through that rear upright. There's actually a cutout for them. And you remember I said to you about the electronic speed controller, we need to position that. So I kind of think this is the best position for this particular 1060 style electronic speed controller, with the switch attached to the side of the electronic speed controller, so I can reach in and I'll be able to turn that on and off. The wires then will reach the motor, so we'll plug those in now. The wires here will reach the battery, and we will be able to route our electronic speed controllers, the controlling wire that goes to the receiver. We can route that down the back here, so I'll just manipulate that back down the back, and that will collect the receiver here. And we will use the servo for the steering also to come up the same side, and we'll tidy up our wires to collect our receiver here, and place our receiver here so that the aerial cable comes up through the little aerial tube holder which is in the bottom here. So a little bit of tidying up of cables and things to do now. It's a good step to do while we've got the positioning correct, before we move on to the next step of the build, which will be step 26, aligning our front steering section. And yeah, we're getting there. Right, so I'll just tidy up the cables and I'll come back to you. So there we are, we've got the cabling in place now, and so I've routed the servo from the front. I've popped a little hole through there, and I've managed to route the servo cable through there, and I'm going to attach that to the side of the chassis so it's nice and neat, and loops into the top into your number 1 to turn, and then your electronic speed controller goes round through and round the back, and goes into number 2 for burn. Your wires to your motor up to the end there, look, so they're nice and neat and tidy as much as you can. And one to your battery will go off to your battery when your battery will sit in the middle. So that's the wires sort of routed. Just got the aerial tube to put on. Didn't I say, just sort of manage this a little bit to the side. So we can now move on to step 26, which is going to be checking the angle of our steering.